You guys will not believe what happened off screen, and I just missed to record it. Hey guys, Kingpin here. Welcome back to the Center of Primate Conservation, and welcome back to Franchise Mode. While we're on our way to our newest addition to the zoo, let's do a quick summary of the past few episodes. We've made some capybara enclosures, we did some mandrills a few episodes back. They turned out really well and capped off the rainforest incredibly nicely. Going back this way past the capybara cabin, we'll get to our spectacled caimans, another exhibit that takes up a really small footprint in the zoo but turned out highly detailed and nice. One of my personal favorites for such a small animal. Going up this ramp leads you to our Asia section, where we have our proboscis monkeys leading the charge. They like to be outside typically, but usually there's a few in here. Yep, there's one by the doorway. Looks like he's about to go outside or coming in, I can't tell. We have our Asian small-clawed otters there. You have a better viewing of them, but we didn't take the entrance to go to there. But, if you'll see what we made in the very last episode, our orangutan enclosure, and we actually have a new member to the troop. Let's see if we can't find her. She was born probably 10 minutes ago real time. Really fresh, probably not even half a year old yet. Yeah, point 2. Jaya Chandra. I probably butchered that name, sorry to any of my Bornean friends. Matter of fact, somebody in the comment section of the last video actually said they were from the Borneo Islands. But look how cute this baby model is. Doing some scratches. Home to a really nice area too. Here's the mother. I forget her name. This habitat turned out pretty perfectly, and I don't think the babies can escape if the males and females can't. The males are substantially larger than the other two, so if he can't get out, I highly doubt anybody else can. But he doesn't really seem like in a getting out of the exhibit mood today. He's more of a recluse. I'm very happy with how their exhibit turned out. One of my personal favorites. I like the moat. What's wrong with our otters though? They probably have my absolute favorite exhibit that we've made so far. How are you possibly stressed? You have the largest exhibit here. I think it's cute that their AI is programmed to when they are stressed out, they try to hide from the guest. But little does this little critter know, this is one-way glass. Luckily I put a do not disturb sign there though. I've already mapped out the boundaries of the next habitat we're going to make, and it's going to be right next to our orangutan and proboscis monkey, which, if you've been following along, means it's going to be an Asian animal. And matter of fact, it's going to be a big one too, the Indian Rhino. I think this will be a perfect area for it. It'll also probably be the last non-primate we add to the zoo, and one of the last animals we add to this zoo period. It's almost done. This was never meant to be one of the biggest zoos I create. That'll come in our next zoo, or potentially the one after that. But for now, this is getting close. Since I already mapped out the habitat and added the gate and everything, we might as well go get the rhinos straight away. Usually we wait a little bit longer into the episode to do this. In case you missed it, this is the rainforest, home to 3 species of endangered lemurs, and they're all thriving. Let's check up on how they're doing first though. It looks like our black and white ruffed are doing fine, and they're... Why are there so many of you? That is a later problem, but these guys might have just gotten off the endangered list. I guess that's a positive, although we're gonna have to fix that because they're running out of space and their exhibit is extremely oversized. Yeah, that's an off-screen problem. That'll take an hour to fix alone. But anyways, we're here to get our Indian rhinos. Let's just search through our animal storage. We have quite a few animals. I usually pick them up if I see a good deal. Also, while we're low on conservation credits, we even bought some western lowland gorillas a few episodes back. I'm pretty sure that was on screen. But we have 2 Indian rhinos. They have pretty bad stats overall, and they were relatively cheap, costing about 250 credits each. But the one stat that the 2 of them do share that's very good is their fertility stat. So hopefully, if they're happy, they can provide us with a fresh calf and start a new family. To be honest, I don't really have any plans for this exhibit off bat. I know I want it to semi-blend into the orangutan, and I don't want it to be as forested. Pretty much every exhibit in the entire zoo, really, has a bunch of trees around, and I want this to be more of a grassland. Oh, please play the piano. This is one of my favorite animations in the game. Come on. Maybe he's camera shy. Not ready yet. He is only about 3 months old. The Indian rhinoceros may not be the most endangered animal we've talked about in this channel so far. It's classified as vulnerable, with a slightly less than 3,000 of them left in the wild, but they probably have by far the smallest modern-day range. Unlike their African counterparts, Indian rhinos actually prefer swampy and mangrove regions. This is a problem in India, which has the largest population among any country on the planet, and you can't really make a city for people in a mangrove swamp. Sadly, habitat loss is the main reason the Indian rhino population is in such disarray today. Indian rhinos are also known as the greater one-horned rhinos because they're the largest of the 3 species of Asian rhinoceros. They have a single horn that can grow up to 25 inches in length. Despite their weaponry and giant size, Indian rhinos, among every other rhino species, are completely herbivorous and mainly eat leaves, fruits, and grass. Even if they wanted to eat meat, they would have an extremely difficult time catching it, and not because they're slow. All rhinos are shockingly fast and can run up to speeds of 25 miles per hour despite weighing tons. No, the reason they would make terrible carnivores is because all rhinos, especially Indian rhinos, have horrible eyesight, but they do have a keen sense of smell and hearing which helps them detect predators like tigers. Eyes are an extremely complicated body part, but I'll try to explain it the best I can. Pretty much, rhinos can't tell how far or close something is to them. They can only detect movement, but they can't judge the distance the movement is, so they'll react the exact same to a car driving on the highway as they would a lion or a tiger running at them from 4 feet away, ambushing them from a bush. This means rhinos heavily rely on fight or flight, and if you happen to be observing one in the wild, you best hope it chooses flight. Luckily, if a predator like a tiger or a lion does manage to get the jump on them, they have incredibly thick, armor-like skin that is covered in numerous folds, giving them a distinct appearance. Like the orangutans we talked about in the last episode, the Indian rhino's gestation period is surprisingly long, and if you forget what that means, it's pretty much they stay pregnant for a really long time, around 15 to 16 months, and they can only get pregnant about every 4 years. This makes conservation efforts difficult on the human side since they simply can't have babies as much as other animals. Pair this with their poor eyesight, meaning rhino young are relatively defenseless until they can develop their armor and their horn, which is their primary weapon to fend off predators. This forces rhino mothers to be extremely involved and extremely overprotective, which is another reason for their over-aggressive tendencies. Rhinos aren't mindless killing machines. Matter of fact, they're not even overly territorial. They simply just can't determine what's a threat and what's not. They perceive everything as just the same giant blur that's either going towards them or going away from them. And when they can only have a baby, much less than every other animal, they're going to do everything they can to protect it. Rhinos are extremely misunderstood animals in my opinion. Rhino calves stay close to their mother for the first 2 or 3 years of their lives, learning essential survival skills before venturing out on their own to find another mate. If successful, the Indian rhino has a lifespan of around 35 to 45 years in the wild, although individuals in captivity have been observed living as much as 50 to 60 years. Being so big and living in Africa and Asia, which are 2 relatively hot climates, especially where they live in those continents, you would think that rhinos are extremely poor at regulating their body temperature. But they've learned ways around this. Indian rhinos are known for their mud-wallowing behavior, which helps them regulate their body temperature and protect their skin from parasites and insects. Also, they've been known to completely submerge themselves in water, almost like the hippopotamus would, to remain cool. Another extremely interesting thing that I learned about rhinos while researching this video is that they actually have a prehensile feature. And if you don't know what prehensile means, think about how a monkey can use its tail to cling to a tree. A chameleon can do the same if you've never seen a monkey do it. This basically acts like a 5th limb. This is what prehensile means. And rhinos actually have a prehensile lip that allows them to help grasp onto and pull out vegetation with their mouths. Sadly, all species of rhino, among other animals, have been hunted by humans relentlessly due to their tusks and horns being made out of a material called ivory. Ivory is extremely valuable on the black market, sadly, but luckily, countries across the world and conservation efforts have been really bringing the hammer down on poachers lately. Sadly, rhinos aren't near as intelligent as other animals that are commonly poached, such as elephants. Rhinos also have their very poor eyesight, which makes them incredibly weak to projectile weapons that poachers use, such as guns. Overall, can you really blame rhinos for being aggressive? They have to contend with tigers, lions, poachers with guns, among other things in the wild. Crocodiles, elephants have been known to be aggressive towards them, hippos, sloth bears. Despite all of this, rhinos that have been completely raised in captivity without their generational trauma have actually been described to have the personality of lapdogs. They're just 3 tons. I'm a big fan of how this exhibit turned out. I wasn't quite sure how it would mesh with the rest of the zoo, since the rest of the zoo is extremely rainforest themed and jungle. This is more of a grassland with a slight emphasis on the water, but I think it turned out really nice and is a good foil to everything else. We're obviously going to add some backdrop to this exhibit much later on, but I really like the inside viewing. One half of the inside viewing you get to see their small little pond, and the other half of the inside viewing you have in their shelter. They have some toys in there, their feeders in there, and surprisingly they can't get over the rocks that are on that side. They have a lot of enrichment in here, and they seem to really be happy here, which is good. I also am a huge fan of the rhino sign right there of the white too. It's really minimalist. And is this their mating animation? I think it is. That fertility gene really paid off. We're gonna have a baby rhino soon. Awesome. Overall, this zoo is probably getting really close to being done. At the time of recording this, the aquatic pack comes out in 2 days, and we're probably going to make a new zoo. We still need to figure out what's going to go over here, and I'm leaning towards the gorillas to be the series finale for this zoo at least. But overall, look at this place. We still need to figure out what to do down there. I don't just want to put a giant tree line over here quite yet. But that's a later problem. I'll figure it out soon enough. We might have to start a new zoo in between now and then, though. Until then, that's going to be it for today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed. Obviously our rhinos did, since they already made it. If you guys have been enjoying the series so far, why not subscribe and stick around? I promise it's not going anywhere, because I enjoy this game more and more every time I play it, and the aquatic pack's my most anticipated pack besides the Arctic. But, I'll see you then. Kingpin out.